background on Dux Raymond Sy. Dux is the Chief Brand Officer for AvePoint, a publicly listed company. No matter what size your business is or what it does, AvePoint helps you modernize your digital workplace across Microsoft, Google, Salesforce, and other cloud collaboration platforms. AvePoint provides the most advanced platform to optimize SaaS operations and secure collaboration. Over 17,000 customers trust AvePoint solutions to rapidly reduce costs, improve productivity, and protect their data with AvePoint Confidence Platform. With over 20 years of business, marketing, and technology experience, Dux is the author of the book SharePoint for Project Management and of the LinkedIn Learning course, How to Build Your Personal Brand, having written other numerous white papers and articles. He hosts the #ShiftHappens podcast, where he talks about technology-driven personal and organizational transformation stories. I love the title, by the way. That's a great title. Dux holds a BS in telecommunications engineering from Southern Polytech State University and a BS in electronics engineering from De La Salle University. All right, so there is a lot to unpack and very little time, so let's get to it. Welcome, Dux.
Thank you, Alejandro. Excited to be here.
So Dux, are you speaking with us from Washington, D.C., or where are you right now?
I live in the best reality show in the world, Washington, D.C. Every day there's something new going on here.
I love it. Is that where you grew up? Where's home for you?
I was born and raised in the deep South, Southeast Asia, that is, Manila, Philippines, nice. And moved to the United States when I was about 19.
When you were 19, wow, that's a big move. I moved from Colombia when I was 9, but the younger you are, the easier it is, I feel. 19, so you were just finishing high school, or you finished high school and then you came over?
Actually, I was in my junior year of college. So at that time in the Philippines, you finish high school around
17,
15, 16.
Oh,
yeah,
got
16.
It. Okay.
And then you go to college. It has since changed. But yeah, and coming here, I think wasn't a big adjustment because culturally, Philippines is a hodgepodge of the Spanish culture, American culture, and then the Chinese culture.
I like that. That's great. So let's jump into AvePoint. I gave a little breakdown of what it is and all the customers you have, but let's just get it into people's minds here. Who are AvePoint's customers and what problem is it solving for them?
Sure. So AvePoint is a 20-year-old tech company, and we serve over 17,000 customers around the world. It could be the US government, to financial services, to mid-sized, smaller organizations around the world. And the problem we solve, essentially, we help companies collaborate with confidence, especially in this day and age where we're all using the cloud. And how we help organizations to collaborate with confidence is through our most advanced platform called the AvePoint Confidence Platform. So regardless if you're using Microsoft 365, Google Workspace, Salesforce, Dynamics 365, AWS, or Azure, we make sure that the platform you use is secure, it's safe, it's well governed, and we make it easy for people to do the right thing with their data. So for example, like I'm sure you share documents, simple as that, right? You share documents through Google Workspace or Microsoft 365. You don't have to worry about, okay, can I share this? Can I not share this? If you have our technology, one of our products in the Confidence Platform, we can put rules. We can say, hey, if HR is sharing a document, they cannot share it externally. End of story. Or even retention. So if Alejandro or his whole department deletes email, deletes Word document, even though they deleted it, let's keep it for 7 years because we're bounded by certain compliance policies. So what we do, any investment you have in your cloud platforms, again, we extend and make sure that it's safe, it's secure, and it's well governed through our different products in the Confidence platform. I hope that makes sense.
Yep, 100%. The size of companies for customers, is this all across, or what does that look like?
Very good question. It's all across. So, for example, we have customers like the US government. Let's take that as an example. We work with the US State Department, where in a given period of time, there's 200, 300,000 people that's leveraging our technology. And we have big banks, we have big healthcare organizations. And the beauty with our platform is we're global, where our technology is across over 15 data centers in the world, which subscribe to all the local regional data requirements as well. I'm sure you're familiar with GDPR out in Europe, having a SaaS company yourself. And that's important for us, especially it's important for our global customers. But then the beauty is that with our large scale advanced technology, it's also available for smaller or mid-sized organization. It could be a 50 people small business, or it could be 1,000 people mid-sized business. They can take advantage of our technology since we're subscription based, and just like all the other subscription software out there, they can go avail it in the different channels where they buy technology from.
That's great. Those companies can grow with you in essence, or you can grow with them.
Absolutely.
You held a number of C-suite titles and responsibilities at AvePoint, including Chief Marketing Officer. I mentioned it before in the opening here, but Chief Technology Officer. These are 100%. Fascinating shifts.
Yeah.
I have never seen Chief Technology Officer to Chief Marketing Officer. They feel like very different worlds.
Sure.
So what would you say is the difference between your role now as Chief Brand Officer versus a Chief Marketing Officer?
So maybe let me, before I answer that question, let me go back to my career trajectory and why I'm excited about it. And I think while it's not typical, I think it's important, especially to a lot of our listeners in this day and age, right? So as you mentioned, I have a degree in electrical and telecommunications engineering. I finished school as a coder. I coded an assembler for a small German company called Siemens, which some of you may know. and soon after, and soon after that, I started my small business where we did a lot of technology consulting, being a technology geek. And when I had my small business, that's where I realized being technical and being good in technology is not good enough. If people don't know me, if I don't know how to sell or market, I won't have a paycheck. So I had to learn marketing. I had to learn sales. I had to learn how to sell my service and my little consulting company services. So I grew that organization to about 30 people. And in 2013, I joined AvePoint here in Washington, D.C. as the Chief Technology Officer for U.S. public sector business. So I was still on the tech side. And why I took that role is because I live and work in Washington, D.C. I work with a lot of government agencies. So I had the opportunity to work with our U.S. government business and help grow that business as a CTO of public sector. And then a few years later, our CMO moved on, and our CEO asked me, "Hey, you did marketing before, right?" I go, "Yes, for a 30 people company, not a 2,000 people global software company." He's like, "Do you want to try it? Do you want to run our whole marketing organization?" And this right here is not a typical conversation.
No.
We're not as big as Microsoft, but we're a decent size. But that's one of the cool things here at AvePoint. It's not necessarily about what you went to school for, your background. But if you can learn and you're passionate about it, and that's where we live out our core values, being agile, being passionate, and work together. And I told my CEO, "Are you sure? I'm going to try, but I may screw it up." He's like, "No, it's okay. If you screw it up, then you learn from it, then we figure it out." A lot of companies talk about having a growth mindset, fail fast, fail forward, but it's just posted on their wall.
Yeah, a lot of talk.
Here at AvePoint, we actually do it, right? And it's not just me. You've seen a lot of my colleagues where they started in sales, they're now technical. They started in technical, they're now in the business side. So I took over as Chief Marketing Officer, and I had an awesome team. We grew the team. We grew our marketing muscle beyond what we used to do. So in the past, we had very traditional tech company, IBM-like marketing, but then we extended what we did around digital, around content, around influencer marketing, social. And then we did a lot of targeting on digital. And then to answer your question, why the shift from CMO to CBO? A few years ago, as we were about to go public, one of the realizations we had is we've been around. We're like the oldest tech company that went public. And there's a reason why. We grew the business very conservatively, no debt in the bank, cash positive, profitable, slowly but surely. And then as the business was growing, we had the opportunity to go public. One of the things that we also knew from a marketing perspective, we spent a lot of our marketing resources on demand generation, meaning every dollar we made at that time has to convert into a sale, has to convert into a lead. We just didn't have the budget to spend on brand full on, because as some of you may know, the way you measure brand is not necessarily on lead gen. It's not quarter by quarter. You know, the way the analogy I have for brand is like, it's like a hug you give your child, right? Do you have kids, Alejandro?
No kids, but I have nieces and nephews.
There you go. So if you hug your niece one time, does it make a difference?
No,
not really. But if you hug your niece every single time you see her, 15 years later, it matters. And that's brand, right? Whereas
consistency,
with demand generation, with demand generation and traditional, the way we think about marketing is, okay, we spend $1,000 on an event. How many leads do we get? Did we convert those leads into business, right? Whereas brand is more longer term. That's why everybody remembers Nike, everybody remembers Apple, because it's a long-term investment. Going back.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So going back to our story, right? So why did I shift to this chief brand officer? As we were about to go public, we realized as a public company, brand is very important and we need to grow our muscle there. So I took on this role. I would still work closely with our marketing organization, but the focus and the driver of my role and my team is to drive brand awareness. People should know AvePoint. When I say people, these are customers, investors, employees, and partners. They should love AvePoint. So we need to increase our brand reputation. They should love AvePoint. And how do we look at that? You can look at it on review sites, around our products, around employee sites like Glassdoor, or what investors would say about AvePoint. So positive sentiment. And then the third one is brand advocacy. Are people promoting AvePoint? Oh, go work at AvePoint, use AvePoint products, or you should engage with AvePoint, right? So those are the 3 core areas when we think about brand and how we're going to push it. Again, it's a long-term play. It's not going to happen overnight, but that's the motivation and that's a focus of my team.
I love that. I love that you broke down the metrics and the KPIs in essence that guide you in order to understand what success looks like for brand. Now, I want to cover a little bit because you've had many hats, so I'm gonna switch from marketing to brand. We'll cover everything, but I do want to cover a bit on your journey during your time in the marketing space. So during your journey, one of the best ways I thought we can begin is to go over the experience as a mentor on Microsoft for Startups. And can you share a little bit about what that program is and kind of go from there?
Yeah. So it's been, I think, 5 years now. So I was invited. So Microsoft has a starter program. So for those startups not familiar, go check it out, Microsoft for Startups. And just like a lot of these large tech companies, they offer free software. They offer a lot of these incentives. And one of the things they offer is they offer mentorship from Microsoft employees, but also from key Microsoft partners. So since in the line of work I've been doing, I've been deeply involved with Microsoft as a technology. So I would speak at Microsoft events, I've written books, and I form a lot of great bonds and relationships with key Microsoft people. And as such, they invited me to be a mentor. So as a part of the mentorship, I provide mentorship around the tech side of the house, business, marketing, and whatever a startup would need, because I've been through that. I had my own startup before. So part of that is startups can essentially, they have a little portal. They can look up experts they can ask help from, and they would book time and
connect with you.
The help.
Yeah. And I'm very fascinated to know, what were the most common mistakes you witnessed startups committing when it came to growth, marketing? What are some things that you came across?
I think three things, right? Number one, a lot of these startups that I talk to, they're all technologists like myself. And even myself at that time underestimate marketing. Oh, it's just marketing, right? Oh, what do you know?
The product will speak for itself. Right.
Exactly. Right. So I think that's one common mistake and flaw, is people underestimate marketing. Like today, do you know if Nike makes the best shoes out there? I don't know. And I don't care, because it's Nike. Because it's marketing and branding, right? Same with Apple. You can say the same thing. Do they make the best product? I don't really know, but it's Apple. So that's a first mistake. Number two is, a lot of startups think they can do it all, right? Meaning, oh, I don't need to get a sales expert or a marketing expert or an operations expert, because I'm bootstrapping this. I can do it all. Well, if you're the founder and you're the builder of the tech, you need somebody else to help you with the business side. If you want to do the business side, you need to pass the tech side to somebody else. I'm not saying you hire 10 people, but you need help on key areas of the business. That is tech, sales, and marketing. So that's the second mistake I see when I talk to a lot of these startups. And in the third, it could be a good thing or a bad thing. I think just like any founders, right? They think they have always, their baby's not ugly. They have the best piece of software out there. They're going to change the world. They're going to make the next, they're going to be the next Google, without really researching enough of the market and the competitor. Because if you think it's a good idea, it's great, but it doesn't necessarily mean everybody else thinks it's a great idea or it solves a problem out there. I think sometimes tech founders are too close to their baby, that they, we don't think about, let's look at from the lens of the customer, what the pain point out there is. So those are the three things I see often as some of the mistakes or what people don't think about.
I love that. I think that it makes complete sense, and I've come across that as well from many conversations with founders. So you sometimes you just have to, unfortunately, experience it and then learn from it as quickly as you can, and then and move on. You talked about the way that you describe success for your role as a brand officer, and I'm curious, are there things from your marketing experience that were very helpful and align with what you're up to now with branding? Are there similarities in those worlds, in the way that you execute or the way that you think through, a vision?
100%. I would even go as far as even my tech background. So hear me out. A lot of times, and I think it's a good thing that I don't have formal marketing background, because oftentimes when you hear, and I'll be very candid, a lot of seasoned marketers would say, oh, you can't really measure brand. You can't really measure marketing. That's not true. Everything, if I'm going to spend money on it, I have to measure it, right? So in being a technologist, it's 0 or 1. There's always an outcome. It's always quantitative, right? I get the qualitative part, but everything needs to be measured. So I think on the brand side, in fact, when I took on this role, again, knowing nothing, well, not knowing nothing, but I don't have a formal background. So I started looking and looking and looking, especially in this space. There's no standard way to measure brand, number one. Number two, I don't think, at least in my research, companies have figured it out. Like, how do we measure brand? In marketing, I can measure every $10 I spend, this is how many leads. Of the leads, how many close, right? So you can track on it. Whereas with brand, it's not really that specified. So then we, as a team, with my immediate team, a lot of smart people, we started thinking about, okay, what do we want to get out of brand? Well, number one, we want people to know AvePoint, awareness, right? That's important. And then how do we measure it? Well, we can measure it through media mentions. How many times did we get earned media to talk about AvePoint? So that's measurable, and we have goals to increase it, right? What about web impressions? If we're doing our job, web traffic should go up, right? And then there's a lot of other ways depending on the audience we want. Is it customers? Is it partners? Things like content assets, all the content we produce, right? How much has it been downloaded or viewed on the blog? So that's awareness. Second is brand reputation. And what we're going after is positive reputation, positive sentiment. For those that already know AvePoint, do they love AvePoint? Are they happy about AvePoint? So how do we figure that out? Well, through customer satisfaction, NPS scores. Same with our partners. On the employee side, what do they say on Glassdoor or Indeed or employee survey? So that's brand reputation. And third, it's brand advocacy. Are people who know AvePoint promoting AvePoint? So how do we measure that? Case studies. How many case studies do we have? How many customers are happy with AvePoint promoting our product? And then lastly, awards. How many awards are we getting? Is this a great place to work? Are awards for our products, awards for our leaders, right? So all these are measurable.
How do you prioritize which one of the activities to go after? Is this because there are a number of things to keep track of, right? That you're keeping track of. How do you go ahead and say, all right, it makes sense for us to, in terms of priority, I would stick with these two are the golden ones. These are, how do you think through that? What do you ask yourself?
Right. And this is the part where we go back to the business, right? So we're growing as a business, as an organization. And at the start of the year, we always have commitment to the board, to our shareholders as to what we're going after. We're committed to grow X number of dollars this year. Of the X number of dollars, these are the two markets we're going to go after. Let's say our direct customers and our partners. So based on our corporate goals, as it's broken down, we align, right? So let's say, for example, let's say the goal is to recruit more partners into our ecosystem. That means I need to amp up on awareness because some partners may not know us, right? If the goal was to increase our revenue on Fortune 500, right, then I need to amp up there for awareness. Or if the goal was for existing customers to buy more, I need to amp up on my brand reputation and brand advocacy.
Gotcha. A lot. So as a brand officer, so for tech founders, this is something you mentioned a little bit when it came to marketing is important, right? Like the product doesn't speak for itself. You marketing, sales, make sure you allocate the appropriate your time, you bring in someone else that can complement your strengths, all those things. How important is brand building for a founder? And what are the ways in which they can get started, right? So we're talking about smaller right? And
Sure.
does it still make sense? And two, if it does, then what are some of the ways in which, as a tech founder, you can already get started doing
Sure.
something like that?
That's a great question. So certainly as a tech founder, we have limited resources, right? So I don't suggest that you go crazy, start putting billboard ads on, Highway 101 out in Silicon Valley. But what you can do as a founder or key people in your organization, you build your brand, because at the end of the day, people buy from people. You can have the best brand unless you're a Microsoft or an Apple, but people buy from people. So one of the things I can think of, like 4 key steps, right? So first is really think about what's your brand mission, and let me explain what brand mission means. So what I think about brand mission, if you want to build out your brand, what is it for? Number one, is it because you have so much great knowledge, you want to share your knowledge so people can look at you? Oh, Alejandro is a smart guy. He knows everything about 10-second videos, right? So is that what it is? Sharing your knowledge? Or is your brand mission to help you grow your career? And this is with respect to maybe not founders. There's a lot of people out there working in big companies, but they continue to build their brand so they can elevate in their career. The third one is you build your brand because you want to build your brand for the benefit of your company. And that's where most tech founders are in that boat, right? Where you build your brand so people can associate you. Oh, Alejandro is with AnswerBite. He knows everything about 10-second videos, and AnswerBite is, capturing all these webinars to smaller videos. Maybe let me check out that company, right? So that's one. What's your mission? What are you trying to do? It can change through time. It can change. Number two is you got to know your audience. You can't talk to everyone. You can't please everyone. So if your audience are buyers, then you have to talk about the lingo and the language they understand. Because if your audience are the people writing the check, you can't go down the bits and the bytes and all the technical nitty-gritty. Now, there may be somebody else in your company that talks to the tech people, and that's okay. But you got to be focused on your audience, speak their language, and then share relevant stories. So when I talk to C-suites, I would talk about OpEx versus CapEx. I would talk about the trends in digital transformation. I would talk about the challenges with all these hyperscalers, right? Big picture, ROI, that kind of stuff. But when I talk to tech people, which I have tech background, I would share stories when I was in tech, when I was in coding, etc. And be willing to teach. That's part of, you see, people don't want to be sold to, people want to buy, right? So if you come across as a used car salesman, oh, buy AnswerBites, they don't really care. Whereas if you share, if you want to grab people's attention, 20 seconds is too long. 10 seconds, that's like the sweet spot, especially with TikTok and Instagram, IG Reels. Oh, thanks for telling me that, Alejandro. And then they'll check you out. Oh, by the way, they sell a software that does that, right? So always be willing to teach and share knowledge. So that's step 2, know your audience. The next one is be consistent in delivering value. And what do I mean by that? Today, I'm so excited with all the platforms we have. You can share content, and just be careful though. Don't share junk content. There's so much noise out there. Share something that's useful that they can't find anywhere else. So let's say on a weekly basis, go to LinkedIn. Most likely that's where your audience is, and just drop a video and say, hey, 3 tips Tuesday. I'm going to give you 3 tips on how to do transitions on your video. Boom, 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 right? And make it consistent every Tuesday, be it a video or a post, a short post. Anything short is good. If it's too long, people won't read it or watch it. So deliver consistent value. And lastly is network, right? You got to be intentional. So that's why when Alejandro reached out and say, hey, Dux, we'd love for you to be in this a podcast or call, I'm jumped on it because, it's another great mind that I'll get to talk to, another person I get to meet. And you never know in the future that we'll be hanging out in Colombia and come up with a new startup, right? So that's...
I love that. Yeah, I agree with you.
So
100%.
many people this way. Yeah.
My life journey has exactly what you said. There's so many conversations with so many individuals that somehow all come together as time goes on, and journeys kind of crisscross one another. So I totally agree, and thank you very much for those sweet words. I agree the same. I hope to be in the Philippines at some point.
That's right.
Yeah, now I know ducks. That's all. That's all I have to say when I go there. So a lot has happened the last couple years with COVID, with many things. What are the technologies you believe can shape or are already shaping the way things are done when it comes to branding or when it comes to marketing for organizations? And are there ways you see that companies are still not kind of leveraging it to
Yep.
its full potential?
I would say one technology is a game changer, generative AI. I know everybody's talking about generative AI, but I feel we're at the precipice, especially around marketing and branding, of tapping into the power of generative AI. And I'm not even talking about, oh, let's go to Midjourney and create a picture, or let's use Chat GPT to write a blog post. That's already table stakes. But imagine you can leverage generative AI to be more proactive and do things like, let's say a competitor drops a press release and posts something on social, then generative AI will automatically newsjack it, post something on your behalf, alert people. I think that's where the future is, and it's exciting, right? So I'm looking into how can that be done in a more proactive way using these technologies we have, and beyond the typical, oh, let's send a nice prompt and it would generate something. That's one, but you layer generative AI with some of these other capabilities, and I think that'll be a game changer.
Are there current challenges right now, whether it's in branding or in marketing, or as you see this, you just gave one example. Are there others that come to mind where you're saying, yeah, it's right now we're dealing with this, or this is still a major challenge for organizations, and like for any founder that's out there, if you find a certain solution to this, like there's a big market for it. There's a need.
Well, I think the challenge, I think it's less of technology. I think it's more around the mindset. So let me give you an example. So when we start thinking about brand and how we get people's attention, because awareness is getting people's attention, yeah. And then oftentimes there's a stereotype that, oh, if you're a B2B company, you got to behave like a B2B. When you market on LinkedIn, your ad has to look one way, right? But if your ad looks exactly like how other B2B companies look, you're not going to get people's attention. So I challenge everybody that regardless if you're B2B or B2C, in the end, you're trying to get the attention, or you're talking to a person, be it a CIO or a 15-year-old, right? So how do you get that attention? So we did an ad campaign called SaaS in Style. And if you look up that, so for folks want to check it out, just go to YouTube or LinkedIn or search engine, just search for hashtag SaaS in Style, SAAS in Style, AvePoint. And it looks like a Gucci commercial. It's like high fashion.
I love it.
But imagine if you see that ad, you're scrolling on LinkedIn where all the ads look the same, a conference room, a computer, a building, and then suddenly you see a fashion commercial. Wait a minute, let me look at it, right? So I think people have to get their mindset shifted around, oh, I only have to work within this box. The second point to that is, because getting attention is hard, right? So you gotta be very creative. The second point to that is, do not underestimate your audience in boxing them in, right? Oh, my audience is a CIO, ergo, I'll only promote and push this on LinkedIn. Well, at 6 o'clock on a Saturday night, while Alejandro's hanging out with his niece or nephew, guess what they're looking at? They'll
Yeah,
be
makes sense.
doom scrolling on TikTok or Instagram Reel. They're not going to be on LinkedIn on a weekend, but that is prime time to
Mhm.
get somebody's attention. Then go into TikTok. Oh, we're a serious tech company. Do you want to make money? Go into TikTok, go to IG, and start pushing your message there. Now, the format is different, the messaging is different, and it has to be omni-channel. I'm not saying don't do LinkedIn, right? You got to be everywhere. So when Monday comes, Alejandro goes to the office, I saw this fashion commercial on TikTok about a tech company. Let me check them out.
I love that. You're an advocate of inclusion technology for good and philanthropic initiatives, and any initiatives dear to your heart that you want to share or just tell us about?
Yeah, there's a couple. So we work closely with Girls Who Code. So that's near and dear to me. And we believe, and I personally believe that, if you're in tech, you're the 1%. Like, we should give back every way we can. Right? It doesn't matter where. It could be in this country, another country. And how do you give back? Sure, you can give money, but second, you serve your time, right? There's so much opportunities to go to schools or local groups just to share your tech knowledge. So Girls Who Code, AvePoint is a company. We partner with them and support them. And then second is within the organization at AvePoint, we have AvePoint Philanthropy. So we encourage all of our offices. We have 25 offices around the world to work with their local communities. And it doesn't necessarily have to be tech related. So for example, our team in Japan, they work closely with a Red Cross there. Philippines, they work with local shelters. We have a team here in DC who works with a group for veterans that wants to come back to work. So we're big in giving back and really making sure that we provide opportunity individually and as a company around the world.
I love that. As a minority in the tech space, that's very dear to my heart and to many other Latinos and minorities from other communities. And there, like you said, there are very few of us specifically within those communities in tech already. So it's Girls Who Code, amazing. I agree, awesome organization, and I love that you're supporting and backing all this. This is wonderful to hear. We have a couple minutes left, so I just wanted to ask you one last question, and it's related to people management and work environment. You wrote an article called "How to Assume Positive Intent." Can you give us some takeaways on that? And how can we assume positive intent in a challenging situation?
Yeah, I think I'm glad you picked that up. And that whole article came up because for those listening and not see the video, I always have a sign, assume positive intent, on my background. And it's really for my own benefit. So some people think that, oh, you put it there so whoever's on a Zoom call will see it. It's for me to see it. So when I talk to people, it's always assume positive intent, right? Now, why is that important? So I think, especially in the last few years, with COVID and people remote working, we're under a lot of different pressure, right? So between the challenges at work and at home and all this craziness, and we have very limited time that we spend with each other, especially during remote work. Like, oh, we only have an hour, we have to knock it out. So for me, it enabled me to be a better person, but also not think about this person is out to get me, right? It reframes my perception that I only want to look at behaviors to be something that, okay, Alejandro's saying this because he just wants what's good for our project or our company. He's not taking advantage of me. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everybody's like that, but I lead with that mindset, right? So how do you do that? Number one is you just give people the benefit of the doubt, right? Most people, 90%, wants what's good for the both of you. They may just be having a bad day, and the way they say it, it's not how you expect it, or the way they did something, it's not how you would have done it. But rest assured, 90% of the time, people just want what's good for you or for the project. So don't jump into conclusion. Yeah, give them the benefit of the doubt. And second is, and this is something I've learned a lot just by living here since 1996, is you got to meet people in their onlyness. I don't know if you've heard that term, Alejandro, onlyness.
No, I hadn't.
Okay, so I came across this term from the book, The Power of Onlyness. And the author, her name is Nilofer Merchant. Essentially, the way she describes it, she describes that, look, all of us stands in a spot in this world that's unique to us, based on our history, our experience, what we learned. And in short, everyone has something good to bring to the table. So you meet them in their onlyness. Where Alejandro, grew up in Bogota till he was 9. He has experiences there which I may not be familiar with, things he's learned, languages and concepts, and there's beauty in that. So if Alejandro comes and says something which you're not familiar with, you meet them in their onlyness, open up to it, learn from it, right? And that's true in any work environment as well. All of us, regardless of, if you come from different countries, same city, everyone has something to bring to the table, and just have an open-minded to meet them there. Right? And I think the last one is keep a gratitude journal. I write things down every day. I wake up, 3 things. I'm all about 3 things, right? So 3 things I want to get done today, 3 things I'm grateful for. And at the end of the day, I look, I write something. I try to do it every day, some days, especially when I'm traveling and stuff. But I love that. I think it's very important. Yeah.
I've heard that many times. I've also heard that it's okay to, you can be grateful for the same thing a number of times.
Yeah.
I've heard people that are like, well, how do I not repeat? And you're like, whoa, it's a good narrative. It's a positive narrative that you're sharing with yourself as a reminder. So I think those are really great. I love that. I love your energy. I love what you're talking about. Big fan. Really.
Thank
really
you.
am. And was there anything else before we conclude this? Anything else that we didn't cover? Anything you want to share that comes to mind?
First of all, mucho gusto. I'm grateful for this conversation, Alejandro, and would love to connect with all the listeners out there, especially if you're a startup founder. Been there, done that. It's really hard. There's days you want to give up, but don't give up. Feel free to ping me. You can find me on LinkedIn, and also check out my podcast. Shift Happens podcast. Make sure you spell it correctly, or else you get another podcast.
I love it.
I've talked to a lot of great leaders around the world around the transformation the digital workplace is going through, and just listening to people's stories and the good, the bad, the ugly, I think helps shape a lot of the thinking too. Boy, I wish when I was a startup founder in the late 90s, I wish I had all these mediums to learn from others, right? Where today you have them all. So take advantage of it.
I love that. Take advantage. There's a lot of very good stuff out there. And that's Shift Happens. SHIFT happens. Right. Okay, great. Well, Dux, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. Thank you for just giving back to the founder community.